We never had that kind of trouble in these waters.
We all go a little insane on this island.
You all know me.
Martin, it's all psychological.
Know how I earn a living.
Nobody cares because there is no proof. You catch them, you kill them, you leave them out there.
Get the mirror off my back so I don't have any more of this zoning crap.
You've got that.
And welcome back to another episode of the Jaws Obsession, episode 87, Jaws Expanded Universe Minute Zero. Thank you very much for returning. I am your host, Ryan Dacco, author of the Book of Quint, and it is exciting to be back here. It's been a while, so what we're doing now is we are now in June of 2025. 50th anniversary of Jaws is quickly approaching. That's going to be on June 20th of this month, June 20th, 2025. That's 50 years since 1975. June 20th was with the premiere of Jaws. So we are going to be counting down to that as well as for the rest of the year. Remember, this is the whole year. It's going to be the 50th anniversary. So what we have now is we're going to be adding a new feature into the Jaws Obsession here with some of these episodes. Now that the Book of Quint has gone around the worldwide in all formats. The ebook is out on Amazon right now. Also, the audiobook is out as well on Audible, Spotify, Apple iTunes, Google Play Books. Everyone has access to the audiobook. We're getting great reviews on that. We're very excited. John Waters, the narrator, he did such an excellent and amazing job on that. So we're all excited about that. The paperback of the Book of Quint has sold out. So we are now, the third printing is sold out, and it is now out of print. So there will be no more paperbacks for now. So anybody that has a paperback that is now an out-of-print book, it's a collector's item there. So there was three printings were done. We could talk about more of that later on. We need to mention that we are here at jawsob.com. That's the center point of everything. At Book of Quint over at Instagram. That is where our main hub is for the latest and greatest, the current news that's out there regarding the Book of Quint, as well as the Book of Quint World Tour that we were going to be starting this month with Amity Week 2025 over on Martha's Vineyard, where I will be attending there June 27th and 28th. I will be presenting the Book of Quint at the Carnegie Heritage Center June 27th, and I will be doing a book signing June 28th. We are going to unveil a new format for the Book of Quint for those who attend that. So Amity Week is really from June 20th to the 29th over there in Martha's Vineyard. Edgartown is where it's the central part of it is. The presentation is going to be video. We're going to have video available there, so that's going to be its own Jaws Obsession episode. But that's going to be a very important episode, a very important moment for the arc that what we have been on here with the Jaws Obsession and with the Book of Quint. So it's that's very exciting. jawsob.com, bookofquint.com, or at Book of Quint over at Instagram.com. Links are in the description below. Also, the link tree that is in the description of this video or this podcast, whichever you're listening or watching on, the link tree is going to send you around to all the different links. This episode is sort of what we are going to be doing here as we move throughout the year and into next year. We are officially kicking off the expanded Jaws universe that the Book of Quint introduces. We're going to go through Jaws 1 minute at a time. Now, I understand that when episode 1, way long ago, I said we were not going to be a minute-by-minute show, minute-by-minute episode. And I would not be doing this if I did not think we are going to be adding something to Jaws, because there has been minute broadcast before, minute by minute podcast before. If you go on YouTube, there's a host of reaction videos of people watching Jaws, and you can watch it along with them. What we're doing here is entirely different. This is an entirely new scope of watching Jaws, is because we are incorporating the Book of Quint and the details that the Book of Quint establishes, as well as the details that the Book of Quint explains in Jaws. And that's why I think this is a very exciting moment. But there are two major reasons why I am going to be using many of these episodes that follow as we go through Jaws 1 minute at a time. The two reasons here is going to be for research and recap. Research and recap. So we're going to be researching. There is something else here in Jaws that I haven't quite isolated on. I understand what it is. I have touched on it in past episodes, and there is more to the story here, and there has to be some more research. And so what I was doing was, instead of myself going through on the side, I said, why can't I invite everyone in the Jaws Obsession along with me to see if we can actually extract these details ourselves in real time. Not in real time, but you understand. It's that I have to go through this movie in very detail. We have to get timestamps. There's certain dates. We have to drill down on this stuff. But also, there are some details that emerge from what I have seen that I want to bring to light here, because it's going to establish where the expanded Jaws universe can go into the future. Why don't we all just jump in this boat and go along for the ride together? That's what this is all about. It's about community, bringing Jaws fans together, and actually seeing Jaws for the first time with the Book of Quint. There is a story behind the story. I can assure you, starting with this episode, as we go through the movie Jaws, you will see things, and there will be something of a revelation that you never knew existed before. There might be one or two, there might be three or four, but there's definitely one that I think I did not know until I started writing the Book of Quint and doing the Jaws Obsession, and then everything stood out. So we're going to be breaking that as we go through this movie 1 minute at a time. The spoilers, there's going to be spoilers ahead. If you hear the new intro that just played and you see Expanded Universe in the title, I'm probably going to go with EJU minute 0 or Expanded Jaws Universe minute 0. This is the Expanded Jaws Universe. If you see that, we will be talking about the Book of Quint, and there's going to be all spoilers. It's going to be all the gloves are off, all the pull out all the stops here. We're going to be talking about the Book of Quint in depth, and how does it pertain to Jaws? What does it do for Jaws? And that's what the 50th anniversary is about. It's not about it's not just the 50 years of Jaws. It's what does Jaws look like 50 years from now? And my belief is that with the Book of Quint is that it just brings out more of the story and more of the characters, more of the performances, especially with Robert Shaw. So I'm very excited to get to this. On the topic of spoilers, if you haven't listened to the Book of Quint, please press pause on this video or podcast or broadcast that you're listening on or watching, and go to your favorite audiobook vendor of choice: Audible, Spotify, Apple, Google. There's a number of vendors, and all the links are listed in the link tree in the description of this video. That if you listen to the 14-hour and 23-minute audiobook, then you can come back and start with these Expanded Jaws Universe episodes, and it will all make sense, so you won't get the story ruined for you. But I've been really waiting for this moment, because we have the audiobook was certainly delayed for almost a year, and that we had so I have been recording episodes of the Jaws Obsession and wanting to get to certain topics that I haven't been able to, because I don't want to touch into the Book of Quint until everybody had a chance to listen, read, or experience the story. And now everyone has access to that with the ebook and with the audiobook. I know the print books are going to be few and far between from here on out. We're going to be doing limited edition runs starting this month. So more information on that to follow, but you have access to the story. So if you could, please go listen to the audiobook, come back, and then we're going to you can press play, and we're going to go into it from here. So right now, consider anything ahead here spoilers. I don't think there's much in the first minute of Jaws, so I don't in the first minute that we're going to get to that spoils the Book of Quint. But I will be brushing into that, and I'll be talking about chapters and different references. I'll be referencing the Book of Quint many times in these minute episodes. This does not mean that we are done with the old format. Now, the old format with the original theme song, that's not done away. Okay, that still, when you hear that will be a traditional Jaws Obsession episode, where then I can talk about what's going on. I'll read some emails, and we can do all sorts of things like that, and then go into Jaws details. Those will be non-spoiler only Jaws analysis episodes, because at a certain point, I mean, I could have gone on in perpetuity with Jaws Obsession episodes. We had so many topics we would have to touch on. I still haven't done my M1 Garand. We had a Verna Fields episode, the M1 Garand episode. There's so Hooper's the Shark Dart. There's so many different episodes that I wanted to get to, and it's just that we are running out of time. The 50th anniversary of Jaws, but there's something else here. There's another story brewing, and I really want to get it out of my head, and that's what's going on here. So I have to do this research. So we will be going back into Jaws with traditional episodes here and there, but for the most part, I can actually pump these episodes. These minute episodes can come out faster because we'll have a shorter intro, we'll have a shorter out. I'm not saying that these episodes are going to be short, but what I'm saying is the prep work is a lot less if I just go 1 minute at a time. And hopefully the AI sensors do not block these videos, so we're not delayed as much as we are with the larger Jaws episodes, because they seem to not like when I play clips that are longer than 8 or 10 seconds. And sometimes I have to get into this, and we have to go over some of these things that are happening in this movie. Okay, aside from research, we're also going to be recapping the topics that we have talked about in Jaws Obsession episodes 1 through 86. In previous episodes, we were audiobook only, so we didn't have video. So this is actually a chance that allows us to restate and recap and rework theories and observations with video analysis this time from topics that happened in the past in previous episodes. So that's an exciting thing too, is that I can actually reference older podcasts. I'll put them up on the screen, and then you can actually go off and for those of you that are just joining the Jaws Obsession that haven't been here since December 2021, that you can actually go back and listen to those audio-based podcasts. They're all available on YouTube and all the platforms, and you can actually get an enhanced view of the topic that I'm mentioning, that I can point to in this minute by minute analysis of rewatching Jaws for the first time with the Book of Quint. And this is a new way to watch Jaws. There's something else going on here with this movie that other movies just can't capture. Okay, and it's not, there's connections, there's family connections, there's generational connections over this movie, and but what makes us come back and rewatch this movie? What makes us come back and even though we know the lines, we know what's going on, something else is going on, and that's where the Book of Quint was born, was in that concept of trying to capture the untold narrative that's going on inside Jaws. And there's still more to find. The Book of Quint is actively, with the audiobook, we're actively raising funds for the Living Sharks Museum down in Westerly, Rhode Island. The Living Sharks Museum, with Keith down there, he's the curator, and he has the Book of Quint t-shirts available with the museum logo on it. Very cool that helps support the museum. But we're also the 10% of the audiobook to the Living Sharks Museum as well. In order to get a little bit more funds directed over to Keith and the Living Sharks Museum, we do have the Book of Quint coffee can. This is the Quint's Blend coffee from Cracked Bean Coffee up here in Syracuse, New York. Michelle has been so gracious. They designed this wonderful waterproof can, and you get almost a pound of coffee in it, and it's a specific blend that we selected for Quint. And if you look, there's the Living Shark Museum right there. The logo is right there, and it's such a cool thing. I mean, you can repurpose this after you have the coffee. You can put pens in it. You can do a lot of different things. You could make it a planter, and you could put some flowers in there. But it's a collector's can. I signed the first 100. 10% of this can is going to the Living Sharks Museum. I'm not making a cent from this can. It's really Michelle, and she's the owner. She hand packs this. She roasts this coffee fresh, and she packs the can and sends it out to you. So if you go to the Cracked Beans website you can find that link in the description. You can also find it at the link tree. And you go to the Cracked Bean, you can order Quint Blend coffee with the Book of Quint logo on it. and it's a cool little thing for your bookshelf to be next to all your Jaws books. It's a neat little item there that we came up with, just so we can actually get a little bit more funding over to Keith down there in Westerly, Rhode Island. So please, if you can, order some coffee, order Quint's Blend coffee from Michelle at Crack Bean Coffee, because we definitely will need a lot of coffee to get through some of these episodes. Let's just get right into this. We have the movie queued up. We're going to start with, why do we call this Jaws? Why do we call it minute 0? Well, minute 0 is from 00 to 1 minute. So the minute 1 will be 1 minute to 2 minutes. So the minute 0 it's more of a military term that I used in the Coast Guard when we were keeping times. Okay, so as we hear those sounds, episode 1, we made this revelation here. That was the first time anyone's made that correlation, that the Alfred Hitchcock movie, The Birds, opens up in a similar way. So if we listen to the opening to The Birds, over the Universal Pictures, so this is 1963. This was The Birds, the intro. And what I learned was all of these bird sounds that Alfred Hitchcock used were done with a certain instrument, with the instrument called the Troutonium. They're all electric sounds. They're frequencies modulated to sound like birds. And was this possibly Spielberg's little bit of a nod to Alfred Hitchcock? Opening up the Universal logo with the nautical bird sounds, with the same frequency modulations that are making that. Who made those sounds? That was actually done by Oscar Zala. I don't know if he invented the Troutonium. We covered this in episode 1, but he was definitely the guy that mastered it, and he's the one that played these sounds for Alfred Hitchcock's The Birds. And this instrument is very intricate. You can actually see him adjusting these different knobs and different controls. So you can almost hear that bird sound there, right? So it's just wonderful. It's absolutely wonderful. It's such an interesting way to open up what is the greatest movie of all time, with an electric score almost. Jaws has a lot of electronic sound modulation in the sound design, of which I believe it won an Oscar. Yeah. So and Jaws did win in the 1976 Oscars. It won Best Sound. Robert L. Hoyt, Roger Heeman Jr., Earl Mattery, and John R. Carter awarded the Oscar for Best Sound. So those are the 3 Oscars that it won, was Best Music, Best Film Editing, but Best Sound. So the sound design in Jaws was very unique back then and is not to be overlooked here. So that's for any other information there, please go back and listen to episode 1 of the Jaws Obsession. We go through very in-depth about the opening to The Birds. So we know that Steven Spielberg looked up to Alfred Hitchcock, was one of the great filmmakers that Spielberg focused and harnessed, that studied and wanted to emulate. So could this have been Spielberg's little nod to Alfred Hitchcock? As The Birds were a nature versus man movie that opened with electronic sounds done to mimic birds, could Spielberg have worked with the sound design and said, throw in some of those electric sounds and modulate them to make them sound like birds? Very, very similar to the opening to The Birds with the Universal logo. Moving on. See, we're only 18 seconds into the movie. We already have a very interesting topic. Okay, at about 25 seconds in, we have the iconic score that starts with John Williams' score with those two notes. But we have Zanuck and Brown production now. Richard Zanuck and David Brown were the two producers. That they were the producers of Spielberg's movie, The Sugarland Express, and as well as they were the producers on the movie The Sting. So back on episode 21 was the Paul Newman effect. If you remember that Paul Newman was cast for The Sting, which was a Zanuck and Brown production, and he recommended Robert Shaw play the role of Lonigan. Because Paul Newman was in stage plays with Robert Shaw. And it just so happened that he came in and Zanuck and Brown loved him, killed in that role. And after that, they had him in mind. And that's why Robert Shaw was able to, his name was brought up when they had the casting difficulties for Quint, when early on in the production problems. So Zanuck and Brown, these guys went to bat for Spielberg. These guys stuck their neck out. These guys were so important, but they were so important in molding Jaws into what it was by knowing that Robert Shaw was in America and that he was able to play Quint, that they put his hat into the ring when Sterling Hayden dropped out because of financial issues. So we have to give these guys a lot of credit. Zanuck and Brown. So let's not overlook that. Moving on. Okay, right here. I want to pause it here. A lot of this is very interesting. This credit formation is very unique. It's on the poster. You see Roy Scheider, then you see Robert Shaw center, and it's just it's center but higher, and then Richard Dreyfuss is down there. Now, my theory is that this was directly from Robert Shaw's request, because I have in a book here called Robert Shaw, Price of Success. If you go to chapter 15, page 235, it details that Robert Shaw was in, and this is after Jaws, he's in a movie called Robin and Marion, and it was Sean Connery and Audrey Hepburn. And but he was insistent the billing reflected the status of the part in the script, i.e. a leading role. If that were not the case, he would not do the film no matter how much he needed the money. So Robert Shaw was very, Robert Shaw was really tuned into how he was billed on movie posters, and he wanted to see, the name formations were actually a contractual thing back then. And you would go left to right, the lead person or the higher person would be on the left, and then you would go to the right. But then it came out, if you're going to be vertical, then you would have the bigger star would want to be higher, or they would want to be more to the left. So what happened was they had all these formations. And if you look at the Robin and Marion poster, and I will put that up here for everybody. But if you look at the Robin and Marion poster, that you can see that it says that Audrey Hepburn actually is placed center higher, and it mirrors what Jaws is, what the Jaws poster was like. So you have Sean Connery, and then you have Robert Shaw on the same level with Audrey Hepburn center and high. And they have in this book, they have all the different formations that they tried to sell Robert Shaw on, and but then they had it they had it angled off, but tiered but angled. So Sean Connery was higher with Robert Shaw in the middle, and Audrey Hepburn was last, but she was more to the left. And it's very interesting how all these negotiations go on. But this was directly because Robert Shaw was holding out. He wanted to be on that same line. But then other stars were like, no, we command higher value, so we want to be higher. So what happened was they settled with Sean Connery with Audrey Hepburn in the middle higher, and then Robert Shaw down low. If you go backwards now, this is exactly the mirror of the Jaws title sequence. So what you have here is there must have been some sort of discussion where Robert Shaw wanted to be billed first, like farthest to the left, and or over everybody because he was the more experienced, but he had a smaller role because Quint is in less of the movie than Roy Scheider, who is obviously the lead. That's the lead character of Brody. So they actually worked it out so Robert Shaw would be center and higher. Very interesting. It very mirrors Robin and Marion, but because it mentions this ordeal about the placement of names on the poster of Robin and Marion, we can infer that Robert Shaw also had this same discussion with Zanuck and Brown and his placement with the names. And that's why we see this famous name sequence, is that this would have satisfied all contracts and all egos, in that Robert Shaw would have been center higher, Roy Scheider, lead actor, farthest to the left, okay, and Richard Dreyfuss off to the right, also a lead role, but he's on the far side, so he would obviously be third billing. Very interesting, very interesting. So I am always reminded of that. I'm always reminded of that. Robert Shaw's influence into the movie Jaws even extends into the formation of the title sequence. Very amazing. So here we are, we are approaching 53 seconds into the movie, so we only have 7 more seconds into the first minute. What we have to realize is that we are looking at the POV, what we all assume is the POV of the shark, the point of view. I'm going to have a hot take. We're going to roll a hot take out right here. That this is not the point of view as in the eyesight of the shark. That I do believe that there was something else that was planned and discussed, and I want to get into that here. So let me roll this back a little bit more. With this, that if we do know that obviously sharks have their eyes around the side of the head, so they do not see directly in front of them. So if you're swimming forward as a shark, you're not really seeing what's in front of you. You're going to be seeing off to the side. They do have a limited visual range right off to the front. But there were active discussions early on. I'm going to pull up the screenplay here. If we look at the early Peter Benchley screenplay here, this is the Jaws script, this final draft screenplay by Peter Benchley. So this was Peter Benchley with Howard Sackler's contribution. But this is not before the Milius and the Milius Carl Gottlieb contributions that happened later on. So if we look right over at, it says Jaws, right here, opens up, sounds of the inner space rushing forward, then a splinter of blue light. In the center of the picture, it breaks wide, showing the top and bottom, a silhouetted curtain of razor-sharp teeth, suggesting that we are inside of a tremendous gullet. Looking out at the onrushing undersea world at night, hear a symphony of underwater sounds, landslides, metabolic sounds, the rare and secret noises that certain undersea species share with each other. So this is what was scripted by Peter Benchley. And then I noticed there was a video on the Laserdisc of Jaws. And this video was there was like an excerpt on the Laserdisc, and it was a storyboard excerpt. It was following the storyboards. The following storyboards were designed by illustrator Tom Wright before production began. They are based on the novel and on the early drafts of the script. So I'm going to play this video right now, and we could go through this. Is that if you look, this is from this can be found on YouTube. This is information that's right out there. But if you look at the it's following more of that. This was supposed to be a POV or a view from inside the shark's jaws. Okay, so according to the early screenplays was it breaks a splinter of blue light in the center of frame, and it breaks wide open, and showing the top and bottom a silhouetted curtain of razor sharp teeth, suggesting we are inside the tremendous gullet. We have to remember that illustrator Tom Wright was the guy that was brought in first to storyboard images for this early draft of the screenplay before the famous Joe Alves the storyboards that are out in the book Designing Jaws. Joe Alves, the production designer, but Tom Wright was the guy that started that was illustrating the early storyboards here, and so what we're looking at is this original title sequence was supposed to be flowing forward with the teeth over the like we were inside the shark's mouth. So from what we're seeing here, if we lateral this over to the opening to Jaws, we can actually say that this is the point of view from the mouth of the shark, from the great white's mouth. And it gives you a different way of experiencing the movie when you're going forward. And I always thought it was kind of clunky. Why would the shark be with its eyesight going into all this seaweed, just putting its head through all this underwater vegetation? But it's clear that there has been videos where sharks are cruising around and they take random bites of things, and they of great whites cruising around these kelp beds and seaweed areas. So it mimics the opening of Jaws in that this is what this great white is doing. It's cruising around, but we are looking from inside its mouth out. Now, what's interesting is that this actually explains a lot of the things that come up later on with the Alex Kittner attack scene, as well as the Chrissy attack from underneath as it's coming up forward. If you think about it, this is this is the viewpoint of the actual jaws of the shark. It gives a little bit more terror as you watch the movie, that you're going, oh, this is not the eyesight, because it goes right into Alex Kittner's legs later on. It goes right up. It's not like that it's taking its nose and ramming into. No, that's the bite area of what's going on. Now, there is another interesting sequence over here in the Designing Jaws. It's called Designing Jaws, about Joe Alves, written by Dennis L. Prince. And if you go to, let's see here, page 40, I'll throw it up on the screen here so I won't have to show you, but on page 40, there's a couple of frames here when Hooper's getting attacked, and it shows you POV from inside the shark's mouth as the jaws are opening up and Hooper's eyes. So that ending sequence when the shark is attacking Hooper in the cage, those ramming shots going at Hooper with his eyes wide open, could that have been filmed with later on? They thought, well, if we have the time, we're going to put shark teeth over top and bottom of that. Obviously, it didn't work out. The effects were not okay enough to do that. So thankfully, they scrapped that, because I don't think it would have played very well on screen. But were these images shot for the opening sequence to Jaws done thinking that they were going to add teeth top and bottom to the frame, and make it that we were looking out from inside the shark's mouth? It's a very interesting way of looking. And if you watch Jaws now, as we're watch Jaws as that's the shark's POV that's a point of view from inside the mouth of the shark. It adds a little bit more terror to it. It's really interesting. It's not just the eyesight of the shark. It's actually what the mouth is looking at. So it really is the point of view of the jaws. Who was that storyboard artist? That storyboard artist, Thomas J. Wright, is a television director and producer. He got his start in the horror genre as a production illustrator on the 1975 film Jaws, though he was uncredited in the film in this capacity. So according to that Laserdisc video, we have Mr. Thomas J. Wright was actually involved in those early storyboards, showing that what we're seeing here in this opening minute to Jaws is actually the POV of inside the shark's mouth. Very cool. So we're going to go. We have obviously co-starring Lorraine Gary. 1 minute right here. We're at the end of the first minute of Jaws. And we have Murray Hamilton playing the mayor, Mayor Larry Vaughn. We have Carl Gottlieb playing the reporter Meadows. Carl Gottlieb was also the screenwriter, credited screenwriter for Jaws. Jeffrey C. Kramer, who plays Deputy Hendricks. And then Susan Backlini, who plays Chrissy Watkins. That comes up in the next sequence. So there we have it. That's going to be the first minute 0 for the Jaws expanded universe. The movie Jaws is copyrighted property of Universal Studios. Any references and sampling from the movie Jaws in this episode is intended to fall within Section 107 of the Copyright Act. The copyrighted materials are fairly used for the purposes of criticism, comment, reporting, teaching, and research. The materials used here are protected by the fair use guidelines of Section 107 of the Copyright Act, all rights reserved to the copyright owners. Thank you very much for everyone for tuning back in. Episode 87. Jaws Expanded Universe Minute 0. This is going to be a great time. This is going to be a very exciting time to actually go through the film Jaws 1 minute at a time. But we're going to be incorporating elements of the Book of Quint, extracting new details. We're going to be pointing things out, but also it's going to help me to do that final research I need to find the story behind the story. If you haven't already, please go over and follow us at Instagram at Book of Quint. I'm headed off to Martha's Vineyard at the end of the month, June 27th and 28th. I will be live on the island. I'm going to be presenting the Book of Quint. This is a presentation that is, I'm putting a lot into it. We're going to have, it's going to be unlike anything the island has ever seen. And we're very excited to have Matthew and Eggertown Books to be bringing us over there. And we're going to be unveiling a new edition of the Book of Quint. Very exciting time. So I want to thank you everybody for tuning back in, and we're going to get these episodes cranked out. I might go on to, I'll get this out, and then we're going to go on to minute 1 on the next episode for episode 88. Thank you very much for listening. Until next episode, farewell and adieu. Show me the way to go home.